Yeah, we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 14 of BrewFOs. That one squirted a little. My name is Chad Ackerman. I'm your host here. Today I'm stoked I get to talk to Dan Warren from the fifth pillar of emphasis. I've been following Dan for a while. He does a great job of following the UAP, the UFO subject, and he makes these short clips that are very descriptive and kind of like, it's not, none of it is opinion. He just takes the facts and kind of tells you what's going on or what's going down, whether it's the past or whether it's currently. And I've been following Dan for a while, and I can't believe I get to talk to him today. It's pretty cool. But yeah, so let's get Dan on here. I'm stoked to drink. I'm drinking a beer. Dan said he had some type of smoky drink. We'll see what that is. But yeah, let's get Dan on here. This is actually Dan's his first Instagram live too, so I'm excited about that. Here we go. Dan? Oh,
hey, can you? Is my audio decent at all?
it's great, man.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. I can't tell if you're coming through my earbuds or you're coming through my phone.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you through my phone. Is there a setting I need to hit for getting over
Bluetooth?
to my earbuds?
Maybe Bluetooth and settings on your phone?
It was working when I started.
Dude, if there's no feedback, it's fine. You don't have to worry about it too.
Okay,
Like, no
that
worries.
works for me.
Yeah, that's totally fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Good, man. Cheers to you. You have some kind of smoky drink going on here? What'd you say?
Well, it's a two-part job. You start off with just a regular whiskey, which the story behind this is I'm a fan of a peaty Scotch, which is a smoky flavored Scotch, and it's expensive. Like, it's not something that you can drink very regularly. It's kind of for special occasions, and I'm a cheapskate. I always have been, always will. So it's hard for me to shell out top shelf prices when I'm a lower shelf budgeter when it comes to my drinks. So what I do is I have a Kentucky bourbon that I've grown accustomed to over the years called Evan Williams. My wife has gotten me this kit, which is a whiskey smoker kit. It's what I wanted for Christmas, and it comes with these little packets of wood chips. You can kind of see they're just teeny tiny little things, just like a smoker you're going to get in your own backyard. This nifty little barrel that opens up, and it's got a little screen in here, so you can put your little wood chips in there.
Dude.
So I'll just throw a few in here real quick.
Are you making it right now?
Yeah, I'm going to show you the full demonstration. This is free advertising for Smoky Kit Combo Joy. So I think it was like $35 or something. So it's got little magnets that put the barrel on top. It comes with a little thing to make the snowman balls perfectly round, go in your whiskey cup. So then you start assembling your drink. You just pour a little bit over I'm going to call it an ice orb. Since we're talking about UFOs, we might as well go with the orb theme. So you pour that in there, take the top off of this, and then it's got a butane torch that comes with it. And this is where it's fun, because it's got a hole that will go through. So I light my butane torch, and I let it start smoking, and it pumps the smoke into the drink. And so you can see it starts filling it up. And so then you just let that sit for a minute, and the whiskey will actually start to absorb the smoke. I'll put the cap on it so it doesn't.
Dude, I wish I was in that room with you right now, because I want one of those now so bad. That looks awesome, dude. Oh my god.
Well, it comes with 6 different flavors, and so I haven't even made it through all of them because just a little bit goes a long way. It's kind of shocking how long these things have lasted. But yeah, it definitely if you drink a similar drink all the time, you can make anything you drink a smoky drink if you like that kind of flavor.
I
But then
totally, dude. That's one of my favorites, too. Smoky drinks. It
but
looks like,
this is my kid's favorite part because you can take it off and then smoke kind of bellows out a little bit and you swirl it around. So
dude.
it's just an interesting twist on a classic taste. So I've been doing it for since Christmas. So I'm still getting used to it and perfecting it, but it's definitely changed the game for me.
So you have
But I
to,
only do it on special occasions like coming on your show.
dude. Thank you so much. So you have to wait a little bit before you sip it, then.
Yeah,
Yeah. So how long
you,
do you have to
you
wait?
I'd say give it about 3-4 minutes, let the
Great.
smoke get in there, and
Because
and
I
then
don't
it'll
want to
be ready
cheers
to
you.
go.
You know, I want to cheers you, and then I'm not going to drink mine till we. But that's and you're in Tennessee, right?
Correct.
I
So
I oh go ahead. Sorry.
I'm kind of a hypocrite because I'm drinking Kentucky bourbon in Tennessee, but it's I actually worked at an Air Force base for several years, and they had the promotional truck come through from Evan Williams, and that's the first time I tried it, and it was the thing that gave me the least negative consequences of drinking alcohol. Uh, so so I've been kind of a fan of it ever since.
Yeah,
All right,
man. No, dude.
I think I think it's ready if you are.
Oh yeah. Cheers, my friend.
All right, cheers,
Thank you
man.
for coming on. Oh,
And I did need that because it's been a stressful day at my
oh.
job. But man,
Well, I'm
another
sorry
one
about
just
that.
for that.
Yeah, yeah. Another one for that. The stressful day of job.
So where
So you're
are
an
you out?
engineer. Oh, I'm in. Sorry, I was talking about you being an engineer, but I'm in San Diego. Is that what you're asking? Where I'm
Yes,
at? Yeah.
sir. So you're on the fully different coast than I am.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was gonna say I lived out in Tennessee. Me and my wife lived out there for almost 2 years, and love it out there. It's beautiful. I mean, there's different parts, obviously, but
Yeah,
we were in the Nashville area, so I love it out
you were.
there.
Where'd you
Yeah,
live?
and out in Nashville.
What part? That when you say
Oh,
Nashville, that's kind of
yeah.
an umbrella
I
term.
lived downtown for a while. Lived downtown for about a year, and then kind of out towards like in between Brentwood and Nashville.
Okay,
So yeah, but the downtown was crazy, man. Whenever there was a Preds game, it was like wild out there. But you know,
that's the first
yeah.
hockey game I've ever gone to live was a Preds game.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
We actually took my family out to a minor league hockey team game just for my daughter's birthday last weekend. So they actually enjoyed it more than I thought they would. So everybody had a large time.
That's rad, dude. That's awesome. And dude, this is your first Instagram live, which is crazy. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's awesome. Dude, I how long? I don't even know how long you've been on Instagram, but I think I've been following you since you got on, and I didn't even know about TikTok or anything, or that, And I was just like, man, this guy rips. Like, your videos are so rad. That's why I wanted you on, because
Thanks.
if people don't know about you yet, that are connected to me, I just want people to know who you are, because I think you do a great service, man. It's such a great, like, public service. Uh, I've learned so much from your videos, and I try to dive in as much as I can, but like, uh, the fact that you make them short and like, uh, short enough. I mean, you have longer form stuff on YouTube, but uh, yeah, dude, I know a little bit since I've been following you. Like, I know how you got into it and everything, but I kind of want to go through that just so other people know. I know you've done it on other podcasts, but can you kind of just talk about? I know you've been into it since you were a kid. You were into UFOs and stuff, but can you kind of start with that? Like,
Yeah. So
yeah,
I've had this question asked to me
yeah,
numerous times, as you've pointed out, and it's kind of made me sit back and reflect on why am I into this and where did it all start. And every time they ask me that question, I don't know if you've ever heard of the 7 why principle or practice where you ask why 7 times in a row until you really get down to the reason that you've decided to do something. That's the process I ended up going through. And I realized that it originated, my interest in this topic wasn't specifically in aliens or UFOs, but it stems from me being an insomniac as a child and laying awake late at night and being fascinated and terrified by the concept of infinity, as far as the infinity when it comes to time as well as space. How can time have never existed in the past? What happens in infinite time from now? How can there be so much space in this universe that we only represent such a small portion of? And then that's when my thoughts started going to, well, if the world is as large as it is and there's life all over it, surely there's life elsewhere in the universe. And then that kind of started the ball rolling for, well, what would that be? And that's when I started kind of figuring out UFO related topics or life. Let's not say UFOs yet. That was when I started thinking about life, a spiritual life outside of our realm, as well as physical life outside of our uh, our environment, our world. So that's where it really started. And then I also like to tell people I got hooked on, as a child, I got hooked on alien intelligent life forms in the form of Transformers from Hasbro as a Saturday morning cartoon, because I'll tell anyone that's the most likely accurate depiction of alien visitation to Earth that's out there, because they are advanced mechanical creatures that have conscious AI supporting them. So they're what we would send out to another planet like Mars. We'd send a helicopter. We'd send a rover out there. That's exactly what the Transformers did. They came to Earth millions of years ago and predated civilization, and then emerged after they got woken up by a volcano, and then they started scouting around, and that's exactly what they are, is sentient, intelligent, mechanical creatures. So I got into it from there as well. But then it's been another one of those uh, situations that you've probably experienced in your own life as well, where you're really deeply interested and engaged with a particular topic and you're fascinated with it, and then you kind of ebb and flow throughout the course of your life as far as, well, now I'm interested in this and I'm interested in that. So I haven't been uh, obsessed with UFOs my entire life, but it's definitely been a repeating pattern. I'm also a big fan of ancient human civilizations, particularly those that had megalithic structures associated with them, as well as the wildlife that's on the planet Earth. Like I was a giant Animal Planet junkie, the crocodile hunter fan when I was growing up and throughout my college years. And I would love to go around the world and get to try to almost get killed by animals that are exotic and deadly, and just enjoy the crap out of it if I had the opportunity.
Well, I mean, you got some dangerous ones in Tennessee. I mean, not as crazy as like a crocodile or anything, but you guys got those snakes out there too, that the water snakes. I forgot what they're called, cottonmouths or something.
Water moccasins, cottonmouths, yeah.
Yeah.
And they will chase you. I've been chased by them on the side of a lake before. It's intimidating, without a doubt.
Yeah, that scares me, man. That stuff creeps me out. So I mean, more power to you if you can like want to study that stuff. Or I mean, some of my friends live in Australia too. I'm just like, dude, I don't know. Like, I would be just the whole time like, just looking around, looking over my shoulder,
Yeah.
So, but so, dude, that's rad. That's a good I mean, when you brought up Transformers, I was also thinking I wonder, they kind of say they put stuff into our TV and film to kind of get us like used to like maybe what reality really is, and maybe back then they were putting that in kids shows just for us to like be like okay with it or something, like if that's what some of this is, whatever it is. But
Well, there's always the argument, are people seeing something and science fiction is replicating it, or pop culture is replicating it, or is pop culture leading the way and that's causing people to have visions or see things that and interpret them in a certain way that would conform with pop culture. So that's something that comes up in the UFO conversation a lot. If you go way back into before 1947, there were grays depicted in certain books, including Aleister Crowley. He wrote a book, and I'm forgetting the name of the creature that he drew, but it looks like a gray alien. I think it's like a LIU or something. A Lue is what he called it. But it's, I mean, you look that up and it will trip you out because you're like, that's a gray. That is absolutely a gray. So what is it that we're seeing? Is it something that's coming from Lamb? That's right. Thank you, Vinny.
Hey,
It's
hey, Vinny.
amazing to pull that up and check that out compared to what we interpret as the alien grays now. So it's fascinating to see that just come from someone that I don't know has ever had a UFO sighting, but it's something that's apparently been with us in some form or another for a long time.
Yeah, you know, I've brought him up before, but when I started reading Jacques Vallée, that's when I started realizing that more and more too. And then when Diana Pasulka talked about when she was doing her, I think it was her book on purgatory, she was saying that a lot of these old sightings and stuff or things that happened, encounters, she was realizing like, wait, this sounds more like the UAP phenomenon than like, angels and demons and stuff. And I can see how people are calling them that, but this seems a lot like what we're experiencing today. And um, that's when I was like, whoa, it's like it kind of got bigger to me.
So another thing that I've been kind of fascinated by lately is the Jinn, DJINN. It's basically the genie from Aladdin.
Yeah.
Like he was a jinn basically in ancient uh, Middle Eastern countries, and the attributes that they have. The way that I kind of try to view them is, well, if it was an advanced alien species that was interacting with us way back then, how would they describe it? They would have to describe it as basically magical powers because their vocabulary wouldn't allow for the types of maneuvers that are. They wouldn't be able to compare UFOs to planes. They wouldn't be able to compare aliens to things that we have in our pop culture. They're coming up with their own definitions of them at the time. So I feel like that's a lot of what could have been happening back then is they're just trying to use the vocabulary that they had to describe things that they couldn't understand. And I do feel like we do some of that right now. We're trying to pigeonhole things into a particular definition that we're comfortable with. That's where, if you look back at John Brennan's interview, where he was the former CIA director, and he was asked about what he thinks the origin of UFOs are, and he very laboriously laid out his definition or his explanation, and it kind of fumbled along. And he was saying the things that we're observing may represent something that we may potentially recognize as some form of potential life. So it sounds like we don't even have the terminology, at least from the John Brennan quote. We might not even have the right vocabulary to explain what that form of life is. Of course, then we start talking about the interdimensionals, and that doesn't make sense to any of us either. So it's a weird world out there, man.
It's super weird, man. I remember when he was I forgot what that was. If it was a podcast or something John Brennan was on, but he was like, I remember he was kind of like leaning forward and looking off, and he was like taking him forever to say what he was saying, like you were saying, and he finally said it, and I was just like, what? Like, wait a second here,
Yeah,
this is wild,
like we want
but
to boil it down to it's little green men and metal tin cans flying here from other planets, but it might be way more complicated than that. Who knows?
yeah, and so like, you're what I've learned too is you were kind of like, just get to going back to the fifth pillar of emphasis. You're kind of like a private guy. You weren't looking for attention or anything, but then you heard Lue Elizondo and Christopher Mellon talking, and I think Lue's yeah, his five pillars of emphasis. But you said that Lue was like, uh, basically saying that we need to engage the public and we need to talk, and you were like, man, I want to get out there and kind of like do my part, because this is history. Like this is one of the craziest points in human history. Am I right? Like that's how you started.
That's exact. You got that on the nose, man. Like
Okay.
so, what my I've been interested in it so long. I've been a closeted UFO researcher for many years. And I'm sure that anyone listening to this probably has felt this way in the beginning of their interest in this topic. Is I didn't feel like I had anyone to talk to about this. I felt like I was on an island, basically, as far as my interest in this. I was kind of ashamed of it, to be honest with you. And all I would be able to do is kind of absorb information, and that would be the end of the conversation. I was just batting the ideas around in my brain. Well, then 2017 came around, the New York Times article came around, and it became more and more interesting that people could speak more openly about it in public. And the thing to me about the To the Stars Academy, which was right there with the New York Times article, is that Steve Justice from Lockheed Skunk Works was involved. And I'm an engineer, and I understand the level of success that man has had in his professional career to get to the point where he was the lead of the Skunk Works program. That is an amazing accomplishment. And for him to be willing to stand on a stage and take this topic seriously kind of gave me the, well, if he's willing to do it, I should be willing to do it mentality. I had been on Twitter for a little bit at that point, and I was still going by an avatar. I was Kodos from The Simpsons, and I didn't have my real name out there. And so it just started wearing on me after a while. And eventually I said, you know what, I'm tired of hiding my interest in this. This is people that are interested in the same thing that I'm interested in. I shouldn't be a character. I should be myself. So that's when I put my face on there, and that's when I put my real name on there. And it was like a weight lifted off my shoulder because it didn't feel like I was pretending to be something that I wasn't. It allowed me to feel like I was being myself and interested in this topic. So that got me to where I felt comfortable just having that basic information, a picture of myself out there in the public. And then Lue started going on all those interviews, and he started discussing the 5 pillars of emphasis. And I can't do anything about 1 through 4. One's legislative engagement, executive level engagement, i.e. the president. I think it was congressional or academic engagement.
Yeah, I have them up on here. We got legislative engagement and briefing, senior executive level engagement, engage interest in international parties, mainstream media engagement, and then engaging the public.
Engaging the masses, the 5th pillar of emphasis. That's the one that I can do, and that's the one that you can do, and that's the one anyone watching this can contribute to. So when he started describing that, I felt like that was it resonated with me because, like, I want to be part of history. If this is the most significant event that's going to occur, it's a one-time event that could occur if we find out that we're not alone, then I would love to be able to participate in that, to enjoy that, for my kids to know that I participated in this, for my grandkids, my great-grandkids to know that same thing as well. So that's kind of where I came from, is I did it because I wanted to be part of something that's larger, bigger than myself. And I can't think of anything bigger than answering one of the questions that has plagued humanity for our existence. Are we alone? So I'm hoping to be a relatable voice in the community because I feel like I'm just a regular dude. Live my normal life, have kids, have a wife, have a job. I work all the time, and I was a soccer coach. I'm just a regular dude. And I think that there's a relatability problem with a lot of UFO researchers out there because they're so well educated. It's hard for people in the general public to understand and appreciate what they're saying. So that's when I decided to try to bridge that gap and make these short, little, concise videos to where I'm not preaching to the choir. With, like, a lot of the podcasts that we all listen to is just inside baseball. A lot of us are just kind of talking about it amongst ourselves. But I saw this opportunity to kind of reach out to a different demographic that's not particularly interested. And TikTok was my platform to act as a force multiplier, to be able to reach a different group of people potentially that hadn't been interested in this topic before, and present information to them in a manner that was educational, informative, and at times humorous, I hope to say. But then
Definitely
bring them into the larger conversation, to just bring attention to the topic as well, because I'll often quote Tupac as far as, I don't think I'm going to be the one to solve this, but I hope that I can spark the brain that does solve this problem in the future. So that's kind of how I got involved in actually making content. I wanted to stop being just a viewer, and I wanted to be a doer.
Dude, that's so rad, man. Cheers to that. I want to give you another. That's awesome, dude. It's so inspiring, man. And I mean, especially since you're saying like you're just a regular dude, you're a dad, you're an engineer, like soccer coach, like like it's so cool, man, because one of the things I love about you too, and it's some of the the other people that I follow in this topic is that you aren't saying that it's one certain thing and you don't have this like one narrative, and I think that's what pushes people away too. It's just that that it just seems everyone's got to tell you it's aliens, or someone's got, I know it all, man, I got to tell you that it's this, and they have like, it's almost like they're just preaching at you, it's this, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, I always go back to quotes that I've heard in the past of, if someone tells you they know exactly what it is, that's the person you don't listen to. Um, it's so mysterious that I don't think anyone has a full grasp on it. There might be a few people, but they're apparently not talking and sharing that information with the rest of us. Hopefully, we'll get that information as well.
did you by any chance, that just reminded me of something, did you by any chance see the Tom DeLonge movie, The Monsters of California?
I can't say I've seen that one
Okay.
yet. Is it? I don't know. I don't even know where it's available to get.
Yeah, I think it's, where'd I watch it? I think I got it on iTunes or Apple or something. But or whatever, yeah, Apple TV or
I'm an Android fan.
yeah.
I don't like that Apple cult. I don't know if I
I don't
can
want
do
to
it.
ruin it. I don't want to ruin anything from that, but like I'm just wondering too. Basically, I don't think this will ruin it, but I just don't like. I wonder too if you know no one even at higher levels, they have a better idea of what's going on, but maybe they don't really even know themselves, and that in itself would be scary to reveal to us, because if they were like, we don't know, but there's something here we don't, that would be uh probably very hard to tell the public.
So I can understand that from the government's perspective, but it's hard for me to believe that from experiencers' perspective. Like they've had a more intimate encounter with them. They would hopefully have a better understanding of what they are. I've kind of changed my stance in the last few months ago. I thought the disclosure was going to have to come from the government, but I have kind of changed my perspective on that. And I believe that outside sources, outside organizations probably have just as good of a chance as bringing about disclosure as the government does. The government doesn't want to for various reasons. And they're thinking in the terms of self-preservation, because if we ask them, if they admit to one piece of information about a truth, then we're going to immediately pounce on them to get everything that they know about it out of them. And they're going to have to confess to covering up. They're going to have to confess to crimes that they were committed, that have been committed to preserve the secret, and they don't want to do that. And what I feel is unfortunate is the people that are in the government right now aren't the ones that initiated this program. They're just going to be caught holding the bag and being held accountable for the sins of the past.
Yeah.
So I think the human issue comes into play when you talk about disclosure from the government. So it's super complicated versus an outside organization that could come out with some information, some video, some documentation of some sort that could prove it without a doubt. If the government's able to get to a crash site, maybe there's a way for a civilian research organization to get there first and stream it on Instagram Live, and then there's this truth revealed to the world. Maybe that is how disclosure comes about, but we'll see. And I also want to point out that with all of the different possibilities that this could be, and sorry for interrupting, the thing that I always want to point out to people is I could be 100% wrong about everything. And this could all be prosaic. This could all be ordinary. This could all be of earthly origin. And there's a lot of confusion, and there's a lot of people that are seeking attention. I admit that that's a possibility, and it's a valid possibility. But in my opinion, the evidence is leading us in a different direction.
Dude, that made me think of this too. Is just I've talked to some of my guests on here before about this, but like, no shame to people that have the poster I want to believe or whatever. But I came from a very religious background, and it was from belief and stuff, and I'm not anymore. But I really had to I really wanted to know what was going on, and so I had to kind of really push myself, take a really far back look, and that's what I'm still trying to do. And I don't really want to believe anything, and I just want to know, and um, you know, the I think that's where we kind of can get misled, is if we're believing in something, because even if something crashes and somebody's filming it and it comes out and it's all, hey everyone, I'm an alien from wherever, I still don't know if I would believe it. You know what I mean? I I would still need more than that. And I don't know exactly. I'm trying to think of exactly what I need, but what would you need? What would you need?
I'm just like every other human on the earth. I would need my own personal encounter. That's without a doubt the one thing that we can all agree upon is if you had an encounter yourself, it would be what you needed to convince you. And that's one of the things that I'm bummed about is I'm so into this topic, but I've never seen what I would consider an actual UFO. I've never had an encounter. I don't think I'd want to have an abduction encounter. Those sound terrifying, but I'd like to see something close up like the Stevensville, Texas UFO. Like that would be mind blowing to see something along those lines. But other than that, you're right. You make a good point with AI and CGI progressing at the level that they are. It's going to be real hard to believe any video that we see at this point. So I guess I hadn't thought about it that deeply. What would it take? And maybe that does take me back to the government would have to make an official announcement. You've just changed me. You've converted me back.
Dude, well, I've brought this up before, but I just want to tell you, me and my wife and 3 other friends, we went to this graveyard once in Utah, and they've told me, since I used to be in a band and I used to tour and stuff, and whenever I go through Utah, I'd stay with them, and they'd always tell me all these crazy ghost stories. And this one ghost story just kept coming up at this one graveyard. If you go there, you flash your lights on this grave, this thing will appear, right? And I was just like, you guys are full of shit, take me there. So, all right, let's go. So we went there and we did the whole thing. We parked in front of the grave, we flashed the lights, and we're sitting there, and I'm just like, all right. And then all of a sudden I see this weird, the best I can describe it is it looked like a foggy blanket, and it was maybe being projected, and then it would disappear and then it appear again, and it kept coming closer and closer to the car, and everyone was screaming. And I also felt like I was underwater, like I was being pressed down underwater. I felt really weird, but we drove right through it. We turned the car on and drove right through it, took off, right? And like I told you, since I came from a religious background, I felt scared and gross, and I didn't know what it was. And by the way, the 3 people saw a woman walking, and 2 of us that were from religious backgrounds, we just saw a weird blanket thing. So that's kind of a weird.
So you're telling me you did a hit and run on a ghost, basically?
Dude, yeah, but I don't know what it was. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Is I came from a religious background, so at first I was like, oh, so are demons real? And then I was thinking or is that a ghost? Is that a entity of some sort? And now when I look back, and I've read Jacques Vallée, like I brought up earlier, and it just seems like whatever this is, kind of sometimes it wants to make people religious or make them think it's something else or kind of confuse them. And so I still don't know what it was, dude. And it makes me weird right away. And I think other people that have sightings like that, it makes them othered right away, because even though I don't know what it was, I saw it. So if I tell you or if I tell somebody else, they're just like, what do you do with it? You're like, okay, cool, man. That's weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you do? It just.
And it also sounds like your vocabulary doesn't allow you to accurately describe what it is that you saw, because you're just interpreting it in terms that you can understand. So it's a common problem. And what you just described is also what do we do with lights, like dots in the sky at night that are moving in irregular manners? It's great that you saw it, but you can't really do much with it. So that's where we find ourselves in a stalemate with progressing and understanding what it is that we're interacting with.
And you're cool with the unknown. and that's what I like, because I like that you're cool with the unknown, and that's the other thing is when we're just talking about like someone saying like what it is or a narrative, like I'm I'm luckily my wife is cool with the unknown, and my best friend is cool with the unknown, and he actually just saw his first sighting, which is crazy. He said the other night him and his wife were walking and a light was going. He's like always sees satellites, like he's always looking up, and it made a right turn just real quick and just went the other way. And he was like, "Oh, like I've never seen anything like that." But uh, again, what do we do with that? I don't know what that is. Is that us? Is that you know?
It just leaves you with more questions. It, you don't know what it was. You'll never know what it is, unfortunately. But it keeps you interested for sure.
Yeah, man. Well, see, that's rad. So that's how you. So we covered that. That's how you started, and then you I don't have TikTok, but then you did well for yourself on TikTok. I've heard from I found out when I was listening to podcasts with you on it that you were on TikTok, and I was like, oh, that's how he started it, because it was like easy for you to edit and make little videos and stuff on there, right?
Yeah, I started off trying to make YouTube videos, and I quickly learned that you got to have a way to make video, a way to record audio, a way to edit it down, and then upload it into YouTube. And it became a very laborious process. And so
Yeah,
then I found out, well, people like kids are making TikTok videos that are 15 seconds or less. Surely, if they can do it, I can do it. So I downloaded it, and that's the one thing I will say about TikTok is it is an all-in-one platform for you to record everything you need, edit it, add character or filters to it,
yeah,
add transition to it, do whatever it is you need to do it, and then publish it in that same app. So it's an all-in-one educational tool for someone that wants to learn how to make videos. So that's where I started making videos, because you're not like in YouTube, everybody wants to see a 10-minute long video or more. But
yeah,
in TikTok, you can make a bunch of short, bad videos as you're learning without putting a lot of time and effort into them like you would if you tried to make a YouTube video. So it's just like anything else, repetition improves your process. So I was able to continuously improve myself fairly quickly to figure out how to improve my end product so that it has more value in it, it has more educational content in it, and it has more long-term significance. So what I've kind of shifted towards is, instead of just covering general news, what I'm trying to do is make snapshots of information that connect dots from events that are occurring today to events that have occurred in the past, so that you can kind of understand the significance of what's currently happening, but then also in the future, so that you can reference back to that video and it will catch you up quickly if something else occurs that's along that line. Like, I've gone back to the Steven Spielberg video that I made, where he's talked about a 20-page letter that NASA sent him about not wanting them not wanting him to put out the Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So every time Steven Spielberg comes up and discussions of anything that has to do with the UFO phenomenon or alien phenomenon, I have that video available to show someone. It's like, hey, did you also know that NASA sent him a 20-page letter saying don't do it, and all the information that came along with it? So it's short little information packets of UFO related content that I feel like are applicable to situations that are going to continue to occur in the upcoming years, that I can refer back to, that you can refer back to. And that's one thing that John Greenwald and I kind of talked about when I was on his channel, is his Twitter, my TikTok, have basically become diaries of
yeah,
what we're seeing as time progresses, as disclosure progresses. It's a real time recounting of what's significant to us at that time and our reactions to it at that time.
yeah.
That is going to be an amazing resource to look back upon. If disclosure comes in our lifetime, we can go back and say, this is what led up to this moment. And we've documented ourselves. So it's like a video diary is basically what I have created. And it's useful. I have literally gone back and researched my own videos to make my next videos because they are information dense.
Yeah, man, it's great. Again, it's great what you do, dude. And thank you again for that. It's a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge, and that's why you know, I I I wanted you on here. But dude, speaking of that, you just remind me of something else. But there was a podcast I was listening to that you were on, the Fight or Flight podcast, I believe it was called. Fight or Flight. I think that's what it was called. But you were when you were on it, I was texting my wife to buy a new Scott Wolter's new book. And I texted her and I was listening to your podcast and I was like doing stuff while I was listening to it. And then I hear your voice and you're all Scott Wolter. And I was like, what? It's like one of those weird
Synchronicities.
It really weirded me out. And Scott was the first guest on BrewFOs that was ever on here. And I actually had to call him the next day and tell him that you were coming on and what happened, and it was weird. But like, shout out to Scott. Cheers to Scott. But I know that you know a lot, or you know about him, and I just thought that was cool because not everyone involved in this topic knows about Scott. And I just want to bring up his stuff too because he's into like a lot of like ancient civilization stuff and like esoteric knowledge, and I know you're into that, like you briefly said, but can you go into it? I mean, I guess this isn't really a question. I'm just stoked that you know who he is, and I just kind of wanted to talk about some of that stuff, like your interest in it.
So, before I dive into my background, I want to update people on Scott Wolter's background, because it's not just that he is into this. He is a professional.
Yeah.
He's another one of those Steve Justice caliber people where he was brought in to do investigations on the 9/11 towers coming down. He has been brought in as a witness, as a forensic expert for all kinds of different things. So he is a professional first, and then he started getting interested in different phenomenon around the world, and a lot of it about ancient civilizations and the potential misinterpretation of the information that's been presented to us our whole lives. So I want people to know that when you look at someone that's into this topic, I find a lot of value in them having a completely separate professional career, and then all of a sudden they find out that there's a mystery out there that they could potentially contribute to the solution of. And that's what I see Scott as doing. So that's what I want people to take away from Scott's information, is he's not just some guy on TV. He is a rock solid professional at what he did, what he does, and he brings those talents and skills to bear on a mysterious topic that no one else is paying attention to. So shout out to Scott.
Yeah, shout out. Cheers to Scott. He'll be so rad.
So, but as far as my interest in ancient human history, I was the Egyptian kid as an elementary school student. Like every time we had a class project, I was building a pyramid. I was building Stonehenge. I was doing anything with megalithic structures, but primarily the pyramids because it was so fascinating and there's so much of it. It is amazing how productive that ancient civilization was that no longer exists on this planet. It's just one of those things that kind of hooked me early, because you can have a civilization that reaches the peak of human civilization like the Egyptians did, and then they're gone. No one naturally reads hieroglyphics anymore. We had to figure it out because of the Rosetta Stone. So it was lost and gone forever. So that to me is one of those things that's just intriguing. Like, how can that civilization, and there were civilizations like that in South America, Central America as well, North America, that rose and fell, happened time after time. And we don't know about them until some farmer's plowing his field and all of a sudden he hits a stone, and then they uncover this amazing civilization that none of us knew about until that discovery was made and the dirt was removed, revealing another piece of humanity's ancient history. So to me, that kind of set the hook with, well, we don't we know these things that are on the surface, but what's below the surface? And so I started digging into that as a child, mainly on the Egyptian topic because that was the most readily available information. But then when I was like a senior in high school, I got a hold of Graham Hancock's book called Underworld. And if you've never read that book, that one will open your eyes. He basically stated that civilization as we know it, ancient civilization, has been wiped off the map because sea level rose 400 feet at the end of the last ice age. And if the sea levels rose another 400 feet today, most of humanity, most of civilization would be underneath the ocean. So that kind of that stuck with me. The way that he looked at ancient history is something that I never looked at. I figured it was all like rock solid. They're able to figure everything out, but he kind of opened my eyes to there's a possibility that we don't know nearly as much as we think we know, and that we are a species with amnesia, and that our ancient forefathers are lost to time. And we're just now getting the technology to where we can start accessing. We're getting enough puzzle pieces where we can put them together and be able to see like what actually happened. Göbekli Tepe wasn't supposed to be able to exist before it was discovered. So there's all these kinds of discoveries that are out there that are just unknown to us. There's going to continue to be discoveries that are made that are going to blow our minds. At least those of us that are interested in ancient human history. My wife doesn't care too much for it, unfortunately. But there's going to as the USO topic under unidentified submerged objects and humanity's most ancient civilizations. I feel like there's going to be a collision there, where as we start to develop technology that's going to allow us to see into the oceans to explore for UFOs, a byproduct of that is we're going to discover things that we didn't know about what's buried underneath the water. So all those things start to collide at a certain time, and I like to tell people my hope for investigating UFOs as a species is that the more that we learn going forward about UFOs opens the door and allows us to learn more about our past. Like, it starts to connect dots. It starts to allow us to fill in some of the blanks about what the Egyptians were seeing. Why did their gods have certain properties that seem to resonate throughout time? Does the Chris Bledsoe story, is that just another encounter with what the Egyptians were encountering back in their time? So I'm hoping the more we go forward, the more we're going to learn about our past. So I don't know if I've answered your question, but that's my and just the sheer magnitude of the stones that were moved, the feats that were accomplished by ancient man with rudimentary tools that were at their disposal. They had to have known something that we didn't know. There has to be some form of lost technology or lost capability that has been washed away from the record that we could benefit from if we were only able to figure out how they moved those stones, how they cut those stones, how they broke them loose from the bedrock, how they engineered things that they did. The South American country of Peru is just littered with these megalithic structures that no one can explain. The way that they fit together, the way the hundreds of tons that these stones weigh, yet they're laid with such precision, it baffles us to this day. So those are some of the things that I hope kind of start to clarify as we go forward, that we have lost something as humanity that they have, and potentially maybe we can regain that at some point.
Yeah, I would just what am I trying to say here? Sometimes it bums me out, like when I'm thinking about it, because I'm like, yeah, we must be dumber or something.
I mean, I think we are.
Yeah,
I'm with you there.
yeah. I mean, and I you know, especially like we were just talking about the stones of Peru too, where they look like it almost looks like corn. The stones look like it almost looks like the stones grew together. Like I don't know how they built that, you know. None of us do.
Like they were marshmallows and they solidified
Yeah,
almost.
or they melted them to yeah, or yeah, yeah. That stuff, you know. But you know, that's uh, shout out to Chrissy Newton, rebelliously curious for podcast. But I love that name just because I love meeting people that are curious still, you know, about things, because it seems like, you know, all of us are really weighed down by our jobs and family life and anything that's going on, that we don't have time to be curious anymore. And if more of us were curious, I wonder if we'd figure out this shit, like figure out where we came from and figure out like how these stones were made. And like, is that what needs to happen? Is all of us, like, do we all need to become curious? Can curiosity become infectious, you know? um
I almost
I don't know.
think that there's a connectedness to the earth that we lack now. I feel like our forefathers that were able to accomplish those feats had a different understanding of the world around them that we have, and they were observing the world in a different manner than we were. I don't know if there's a switch in our mind that was flipped off when we started to develop technology and replaced technology replaced our ability to think in some form or fashion. Like they were more in tune with their environment. They were more in tune with the world around them. And I don't feel like I feel like that's the sacrifice that we made to develop technology, is it separated us from the earth, basically. They had to have had some form of thought that allowed them to do things through sheer ingeniousness, if that's a word, that allow them to accomplish these feats that are just beyond our ability to accomplish today. So who knows what we lost. And I also like to bring up ayahuasca, which is the what's the
Yeah.
hallucinogenic that they took in South America, where they had to combine this root or whatever it was, this plant with this plant, to create this the hallucinogenic effect that makes you feel more in touch with nature. And if you haven't ever watched, what is it? I'm I'm going to get back to you on the name of the podcast because
Yeah.
it's a great podcast. It's three brothers, and they talked about people in South America taking a particular drug that would allow them to more or less see the future, and they were able to predict where herds were migrating, and they would be able to go out and do
Wow.
and harvest these animals because of the fact that they were taking this particular hallucinogen. And it's just interesting that there was a connection to Earth, a connection to Mother that we don't have anymore. We're very much electronic technology oriented, and no longer are we connected to it like we were in the past. So I think that's what we're missing, that we could potentially regain, but I don't know how to regain. You know, it's just lost at the moment.
Yeah, I wonder if that is too because of how a lot of our societies have deemed drugs like that illegal, or especially like now, you know, even with what's the John how you say Johns Hopkins University, they have the psychedelic mushrooms, and they're doing all these studies with thousands of people, and all the evidence is showing these like almost miraculous things it does for people with PTSD or people, cancer patients, and they feel more connected to each other. They can, you know, feel more love, or it's like such a profound um, thing that happens to like most of the patients, not all of them, but most of them. And uh, just a lot of the evidence is coming out in that it's kind of like, okay, well, you know, if people were doing this, you know, responsibly, or if there was some type of, I don't know, way to, you know, have it legal again. I just wonder how different it would be, um, or how different all of us would be if certain things like that were more a part of our everyday. You know, I don't know, man. I don't know. You know,
Well,
um,
I, you touched on this earlier. Like I'm fascinated by the unknown. I want to live in a world where there's unknowns, where there's mystery. I don't want it to be all solved because then it's boring. Like if we know everything, then there's nothing to discover. I wish that I had lived in a time when we were exploring the Earth and we could go off of the map. We can't go off the map anymore. The world that we live in is very defined, but I think about the UFO phenomenon similar to the guy that's standing on the shoreline looking out over the ocean and going, I don't know what's out there, but I want to find out. I'm willing to risk mysterious monsters in the ocean, and I want to go out and explore. I want that. That's a feeling that I think we all lack at this moment. But I think that's also the exact feeling that UFOs represent for people like you, people like me. We're looking out into the universe and saying, are we alone? Just like people on that shoreline, we're asking, is this it? Are we alone? Is there anything else out there? So I think that's kind of the same similar experience that we're going through right now, just at a different magnitude. And instead of looking from a shoreline out into the ocean, we're standing on a planet looking out into space and saying, hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah, that or even inward too, like kind of like what, you know, I think just the fact of like looking inside and being like, wait, why do I think this, or why do I believe this? Oh, is it because somebody else told me, or is it because everybody was told something? Like that's what actually back to Scott Wolter again, but reading Scott's work on the Kensington Runestone and some of the stuff with Templarism and Freemasons and stuff, just kind of showed me this whole other world, this whole other history I never knew about. And I was just like, wow, like, wait a second. Like, yeah, it is true that Roman Catholicism have kind of ruled the world for the last 2,000 years and kind of got into our culture. And a lot of the stuff we don't even know that, we're thinking a certain way just because it's been that way for about 2,000 years. But, you know, uh, shout out to women. I mean, again, I'm not I'm not talking, crap on anyone. I'm just saying, shout out to women because women were kind of taken out of history, and it's not like there weren't smart women 2,000 years ago. So like, where are all the books and the literature and the women apostles and the women priests and stuff like that? They were there, but it just seems like they were kind of. I mean, they were taken out of our history, and we're starting to find more and more. Diana Pasulka has been talking about that too, about women that were taken out of by Catholic scribes and stuff that were women apostles, and we're finding out like, oh wait, there's actually a different history here, and why do we think this way? It's because we've been told something,
Well,
so.
I'll even up it one more level and say that there's entire civilizations and races of people that have been wiped from the record because they were not the victors. History is written by the victors. So those people have been cast in a light. They could have been potentially defending themselves. They could have been doing what they needed to do to survive, but they've been cast in the shadow that makes them barbarians or lesser than the people that were eventually winning and writing the history. So who knows what our actual history is? And that, once again, it's an unfortunate past that we have. We're not the nicest to each other, but it allows that mystery to exist for us to discover and appreciate. Like I do hope that the more history that's brought to the surface, the more people can appreciate the accomplishments of the past of people that aren't related to them, that don't look like them. That's one of the things that I find comfort in, is that if you look over the entire globe, there's amazing accomplishments everywhere. And so that's part of what I would call human history. Like, it's not just part of one race's history, it's all of our history at some point. So I think that's a comforting feeling to know that there's been so many human accomplishments. We're all part of the same family. And just like Ronald Reagan says, imagine if there was an extraterrestrial threat, how quickly we'd come together. I feel like that's something that we could do just by looking at our past and looking at all the accomplishments. I want to be part of that. I want to be part of what they accomplished in South America, what they accomplished in Africa, what they accomplished in Asia and India. Like, who knows how many amazing ancient civilizations rose and fell in China and in India. There's so much stonework and megalithic structures out there that we aren't familiar with because they've been so closed off for so long. Those doors will open at some point, and we'll start to understand and appreciate the accomplishments of their ancestors. And I hope that we all kind of start to realize that we're a large bouquet of amazing over the course of time, and we could all start to appreciate each other more because we all have similar backgrounds that can eventually tie together to a common ancestor.
Yeah, man. That's what the UAP topic has done for me, is just to me, that's what I think. I think that I don't know where the tipping point will be, but that's the one thing I think that could kind of bring us together, is if we all we're like, oh wait, there is something else here, and if it's more advanced or more intelligent, or maybe it's just so weird, so other, but it's like it's here, all of us would be like, whoa, let's like we're human, and let's all figure this out. Let's and I wonder if sometimes I wonder too, like when we were talking about earlier, like you're not relying on the government. I know that's a way to keep power, is for having information withheld. And sometimes I wonder, if like all the the top dogs right now, the US, China, and Russia, I wonder if they're like, yeah, if we let them all know, then they're going to want to know other things, and the questions are going to keep coming, and we don't want that to happen. We want to kind of keep the finger on this, pushing down. So
yeah. So one of the things I've said in the past is I'm from Tennessee. Everyone in the United States sees me as a Tennessean, but everyone in the rest of the world outside of the U.S. views me as an American. Everyone outside of Earth is going to view me as a human. And that's what I think we all need to remember, is that we are all humans in other people's eyes.
Yeah, man, that's the ultra view effect, right? Or I think that's what it's called, that the astronauts get.
The overlook. Is that it? Overview, overlook effect.
Yeah, man. That's what it kind of gave me, I brought this up before, but when Tom DeLonge was on Joe Rogan in 2016, and he was talking about, there's going to be hearings, and this stuff's real. And I remember going to band practice and being like, dude, like Tom lost his mind, dude. Like,
yes.
I was that guy, I was like, man. And then all this stuff started happening in 2017 article and all that, and I just like, what? And that's when I got into it, and and even though I've seen stuff, I still was like, I don't know what that is, so like I didn't think it was an alien or something, but it's given me more hope that maybe we can turn this around. And I know you're a father, and the videos you've done with your daughters are rad. Like, I know you did did you do the Wilson Davis with them, and then you did the Thanksgiving thing with them? So
yeah.
Shout out to your family for like helping you out with your videos, and your wife. Your wife went with you to film you when you did Representative Andy Ogles, right? She helped you film that interview too.
Yeah, I tricked her into that one. I told her that I had a yard sale to go to in that town, and she was all in, and then I sprung that on her.
Dude,
no, she knew what I was getting her into.
That's awesome, man. That your family.
But I took my daughter to the David Grush congressional hearings. Like, my oldest was, I guess, 14 at the time, so she was actually in the TMZ investigation UFOs, the one with Jeremy Corbell that just came out. She's in there for 2 split seconds with me. So every time the David Grush stuff comes on, I'm like, do you remember going to that? Yeah, I took you to that. That was cool, wasn't it? So none of her friends like that. That's like kind of my my hope, is that I'm engaging in a topic that has significant ramifications for humanity as a whole, and that my daughters get to witness that, but not only witness it, but participate in it and get to be able to experience it for themselves. They don't appreciate it now. They don't understand the significance of what could potentially happen now. But when they're older, I want them to look back and say, oh man, I can't believe I was doing that. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but man, it was cool now, or it's cool now. I'm glad Dad did that.
Yeah, man. I think it's awesome, dude. I think I heard you tell a story too where you were giving kids a ride to school and you brought them on the day of a hearing. You brought them to a gas station. You're like, go get whatever you want, man. Or
I'll
it's the hearing
be honest,
today.
man. I never expect anyone to listen to my podcast that
dude.
I'm a guest on. So I'm so impressed that you've actually listened to my podcast.
No, man. I love your stuff, man. You again, like I wouldn't have you on here if I didn't look up to you or thought you were inspiring, you know. So.
But yeah, like what you're describing was I think it was May 25th, 2022, the very first congressional hearing that they had in 50 years. And I took the day off of work. I was like, I'm not going into work. If this lasts an hour, I'm staying home all day and celebrating. If this lasts 8 hours, I'm watching every minute of it. But then I was the neighborhood school bus at that time. So I took them all to the gas station. I was like, get yourself a special treat. It's on me. I want you to remember this day. And because of that special treat, I can bring it up and they remember that moment because that was a anomaly in their world.
That's so smart, though. I mean, to do it that way, too. Yeah, man. That's rad. And, yeah, it's just cool that you've got it. What is that? You've been to the Kirsten Gillibrand with Sean Kirkpatrick. You've been to that one, and then you were to the David Grush, and that was the July 26th one. So you've been to two?
Yeah, I didn't get into the David Grush one, but I was there. I was waiting. I was on the outside looking in, but it was still an amazing way to support the effort. It was It was an amazing opportunity to witness that happening because there were so many people that showed up. And the thing I always think about is the look on the people that worked there, like the custodians, the security guards that would walk around and just their jaw would drop and they would put their hand over their mouth and just, oh, I can't believe how many people are here for this. That was the thing to me that kind of stood out because they don't see what happened as something that occurs frequently in those halls. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I also want to remind you that when I went to the Kirsten Gillibrand Kirkpatrick hearing, I did get in and I did steal Sean Kirkpatrick's name tag that was sitting on the table. So I've got that in one of my daughter's closets right now as a memento.
So that one, you aren't going to hang that on the wall or anything. Well, it's his name. You wouldn't really. He's not really I guess
there's part of me that wants to burn it.
Yeah.
There's part of me that wants me to take it to Oak Ridge and get him to sign it. We'll see.
Yeah, man. The latest stuff that's been going on with that. You know what's wild too is sometimes my family will call me when certain things happen, but in the UAP talk, which is, hey, what do you think about this? But I was talking to my dad, and my dad hasn't really, been up on a lot of things, but last time I talked to him, he's like, hey, I heard that they found no evidence of aliens, so there's just nothing with this UFO thing. Like all the news is saying there's nothing because it's not aliens, And I kind of had to, go through it with them and just be like, yeah, I think the aliens thing is really being pushed on us. And that's kind of a way to get away from the non-human intelligence, because when you listen to David Grush, he's saying NHI. When you listen to Schumer and Rounds, the senators, the Disclosure Act 2023 was NHI, non-human intelligence. So that also makes me just wonder, like, maybe this isn't aliens. Maybe it is something else, I don't know. Something from here, something in the oceans. I don't know. But
well, I think that's the shift that we're going to see going forward is people are going to stop focusing so much on what's in our skies and they're going to start focusing more on what's in our seas.
Yeah.
And if you go back and watch the Grush hearing, pretty much every encounter that they discussed has a water element to it. It was either flying over the ocean being witnessed over the ocean, coming from the ocean, something to do like the Nimitz encounter. There was an object in the ocean that the Tic Tac was flying
Yeah, like
above. Everything has a water element associated with it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's like 70%. Our Earth's like 70% water, so we live on a water planet, you know.
Correct.
So, like us little land mammals here think we know what's going on, but you know, maybe we don't. But that's another thing too. I wonder if we have stuff that's like satellites in our oceans that all that information isn't being really told to us, because I know NASA's really involved with the ocean a lot too.
So
Um,
So I always like what I've been arguing recently is like people will say, "Oh, we know what's in the ocean. We've mapped it. We've done a lot of work on it." Tim Gallaudet, of course, put out the recent white paper where he said we've really only explored 5% of the ocean's volume. But to me, the thing that really sends the message home about how little we know about our oceans is we still have nuclear attack submarines running into mountains in the ocean.
yeah,
They're equipped with the most advanced sonar technology that humanity has created, and yet they're still crashing into mountains with these bajillion-dollar devices that carry nuclear warheads. Yet they're still crashing into them. So surely we don't know nearly as much as we should know about our ocean environment, and just start investigating the ocean for a aquatic domain awareness gap that exists. Think about how much we're going to learn about the world, and that, of course, takes us back to all the civilizations that have been buried by the rising sea levels that occurred and are now 400 feet underwater. We're going to learn so much about ourselves by learning more about USOs.
yeah, man, dude. Yeah, and you were talking about before, like with Graham Hancock and stuff. Like what if we got more pyramids and stuff under the ocean, and like because the water rose because of some cataclysm that happened, and you know, who knows? Man, I want to know though. I want to see that stuff. You know, I can't wait to learn about it. Yeah, dude, I know we've been going over. It's over an hour right now. Are you okay for maybe a few more or a little?
Yeah,
A little bit
I've
longer?
got a few more minutes.
Yeah.
I know that the family's home. I can hear the dog pawing at the door, but I
Yeah,
think I'm good for a few more.
I'll let you go soon. I wanted to bring up another thing, was just about like past civilizations, but Lee Berger with Homo naledi on June 5th, I think National Geographic, June 5th of 2023, came out with his stuff on Homo naledi, which you know was this like 3 to 4 foot hominid that had fire and carving and tools and buried its dead and all that. That was the same day that Grush came out with with Ross Coulthart on News Nation. It was the same exact day, June 5th. And so I was watching them both happen at once, and I was like, this is weird. It was almost like too much at once, you know, because I'm into both of them. I was just I just wanted to bring that up to you because I think you and Vinny of Disclosure Team talked a little bit about that on when you were on his podcast. But do you have any more insight or thoughts about Homo naledi, or what do you think about it? I guess.
So I feel like Homo naledi is just the tip of the iceberg as far as just like humanity, our civilizations have risen and fallen over the course of time. I can only imagine how many civilizations of our predecessors have risen and fallen in the past as well. And when you look at Homo naledi, they did the smart thing. I feel like we're doing the dumb thing. We're looking out into the universe and saying we need to leave this planet. We need to leave all of our resources behind and be out in the middle of a vacuum and survive somehow. Go find resources somewhere else in the vast, vast universe. Where Homo naledi was almost looking at it the opposite way, and they were saying it's obviously safer underground. Have we looked in the wrong direction? If I was an advanced civilization that was concerned about the longevity of my species, would I want to send us out into the radioactive environment that is space, or would I want to dig down and find a way to survive in the deep, comfortable, cozy confines of our planet that are stable all the time? Like if you look at the deep parts of the ocean, the climate stays very stable all year long. Same thing in the earth. Like if we built a house, we wouldn't live on top of the roof. We would live within its confines. Is that where humanity eventually went? And I'm going to transition from Homo naledi to some of the other species that existed on Earth in the past. The Denisovans that they found in France had a larger brain capacity. The Boscop people had a larger brain capacity than we did. The elongated skulls in Peru are the ones that really fascinate me because they have some of the similar characteristics to the alien gray. They have an elongated skull. They have much larger eyes. They have a physique that's inferior to ours. So if I was a big brain, big eyed creature that had a small physique, that would mean that I'm more adapted to either nighttime or subterranean lifestyles. And I wouldn't want to mess with those big, angry apes that are swinging clubs around on the surface. So I'd want to start to be more evasive and avoid them. So are the elongated skulls that are in Peru something that is a remnant of a civilization that existed in by hiding, by being elusive, by staying away from us? Like they don't want to mess with us because we're big angry apes, and we've started to throw, instead of spears, now we're chunking atomic missiles and bombs around. So now they're more concerned. Maybe they developed ahead of us by 100 years, 150 years, 1,000 years. Who knows how much more advanced they were than us? But there's the possibility that what we are experiencing is going to be a cryptoterrestrial that is basically something that is originating from Earth and has just advanced beyond us and have done so in secret. So that would eliminate the need to travel light years to get here. There's as Mac Tonys puts it, there's a sexual overtone associated with the encounters and the abductions that people have. So we would have to share similar DNA if that's something that's important to them. If they're from the Earth, that makes sense. There's all kinds of aspects that they would have to breathe our same air. They would have to do all these things that we do. But if they're from Earth, that would be natural to them. If they were from another planet with a different atmosphere, with a different environment, they're not going to be comfortable here. So that, to me, leads to maybe what we're experiencing is a cryptoterrestrial, another species that developed ahead of us, alongside of us, and is avoiding us because we're toxic. And we're just now getting to the point where we're catching up to them with our technology. So who knows what the future's going to hold. We might find out that the Homo naledi has actually leapfrogged us.
Yeah. And maybe they... hopefully they still want us around if we find out if they're more advanced than us, I don't know. Because maybe these things never went extinct and we've just been told they went extinct, Dude, I'm so glad I asked you about that. That was a great...
Or they could just have a completely different environment that they prefer than what we prefer. Like, we like the surface, we like the sun, we need it to survive. What if they've developed during an ice age when the sun wasn't out, they were completely covered all the time, and they learned to live subterraneously or in some other location that's not hospitable to us? If they like the cold, maybe they all moved to Antarctica, and we're just not equipped to go there and investigate like they're able to survive down there. Who knows?
Yeah, man. No, that's a great point. That's stuff to think about, everybody, when everyone's just saying aliens, Which it could be, but and it also, it could be all of it.
Correct.
It could be, So, and I want to make a point. I'm not saying it's not aliens. I'm just saying, it could be all of it, man. Okay. Last question, and then I want to let you go. But who do you get your information about? Like or from? Like who is like who are you listening to? Who are you reading right now, or do you recommend to read? Because I would love to know, and write it down right here who you're who you're into.
So I'm gonna just come out and say, like, UFO Twitter is the best source of research and information for what's going on this very moment. Like, anything that comes out is covered in detail there. So I highly recommend that people that are into this topic join UFO Twitter and just start following people that I follow. And that's one of my caveats is I only follow people that are nice. I don't like following people that are mean.
Yeah.
Or that are toxic, in my opinion. So I won't follow them. But most of the people that I follow are people that are nice to me in some way, shape, or form. So I try to make sure I follow them. But then, of course, I follow the big names as well. That some know I exist and some don't know I exist. But so if you want to see who I follow, it's a pretty safe group of people. But just be cautious of who you engage with on UFO Twitter, because some people are not so. I mean, I even had experiences where I was just voicing an opinion and I got hammered by people that I didn't have any relationship with. So I always throw that out there as a caution. I used to openly endorse UFO Twitter, but I always kind of throw a caveat out there.
Yeah.
So be careful when you go out there. There's some people that are toxic, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But the book I always recommend to people, just to, like you've stated, most people are kind of hooked on the UFO phenomenon. Originates from an extraterrestrial civilization that's flying from another galaxy to here. But if you read the book by Ivan T. Sanderson called Invisible Residents, which you can buy a first edition copy of it for about $20, $30, it's the book that I always recommend to people that are new to this topic, to just open their mind to additional possibilities of what the origins of UFOs could be. And the way that it's written rings true to this day. It was written in like 1970, 1971. He was referring to UFOs as UAPs at the time.
Wow.
So his entire premise is it is a USO. The USO is more significant than the UFO in the terms of understanding what we're actually dealing with. So that's what Invisible Residents is what it's called, by Ivan T. Sanderson. And I've sent that book to many of my friends just because that's the one I wanted to look at, to just kind of open the aperture and say, well, it could be other things in addition to the potential alien species.
Brad, and I said this in the beginning, but everyone, I'll have this up on YouTube, and anything we reference, I'll put maybe pictures up, and then I'll have links in the episode notes where you can follow you, Dan, on Twitter. You're hey, look over there, but with LUK. Hey, look over there.
Correct.
And then here, everyone, start following Dan here with Fifth Pillar of Emphasis, and then on YouTube, you're also Fifth Pillar of Emphasis.
Correct.
But you have like 62 at the end or something? Fifth Pillar of Emphasis.
I think it's like 562. Like, I had it as just on YouTube. It was the Fifth Pillar of Emphasis, and then all of a sudden they rejiggered everything.
Put something on there, yeah.
Threw something on the end of it.
But I'll have all the links and stuff for Dan in the episode notes. But and I know your family's there. I know it's later where you are. Thank you so much for coming on. This was rad. I'm stoked, dude. So thank you for doing this.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Can I do some shameless self-promotion real quick?
Please do. Yeah, like what's
off?
Coming up, dude. Yeah, please.
All right. So I've been making videos for so long. It feels like I've made thousands of them at this point. But this summer, I get to do my first in-person conference where I get to speak. Oh, wow. I'm going to be at the Cosmic Summit in, is it Asheville? I think North Carolina. Okay. And I'm going to get to do it in a 1-hour presentation, and I'm going to be covering our ancient future, because what I'm planning on doing is covering all of the time-related, and it's predominantly an ancient megalithic structure venue where they're going to talk about ancient civilizations, ancient humanity. So what I'm going to, and they're going to have a workshop for UFOs on one day. What I'm planning on doing is covering anything that is time-related associated with the UFO phenomenon, including Lue Elizondo's cigarette analogy, the possibility that UFOs aren't traveling fast as much as they're slowing down time for us, or they're modulating time to be able to travel in what we perceive is at incredible rates, as well as how like Chris Bledsoe's encounters tie back in time to similar entities that are described in Egyptian culture and Sumerian culture. So I'm looking forward to get to actually do a presentation. But then I've also recently been invited to Contact in the Desert to be just kind of like I get a media pass and I get to go around. I get to talk to hopefully Richard Dolan, George Knapp, all of those guys, and interview them. And that'll end up being on my my YouTube channel. Is what I'm hoping happens. So I'm looking forward to that.
Where is
once again,
Contact in the Desert?
Contact
is that in Arizona?
in the Desert 2024. That's in California.
Oh, okay.
And shoot, now I'm forgetting what town it's in. But Contact in the Desert 2024.
Okay. Cool, man. That's rad. What else? You have a podcast coming up this week too, right? Another podcast you're going to be on?
Yeah, I'm actually going to be on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott this Friday. Good Friday, I get the day off, so I'm going to be rested. And his podcast, of course, is late in the day. So I'm going to stay up late just to be able to have a conversation with Dave, which I've been on his show 2 or 3 times at this point, and I'm just looking forward to it. So it's always nice to touch base with people like that.
Cool. Right on, man. Is anything else, or that's cool, dude? Like,
yeah. Follow me on any of my platforms, Fifth Pillar of Emphasis, and I appreciate every like and share I get, and thank you guys for letting me get off of the isolation island that I was on and get to communicate with people that are like-minded and that are interested in similar things that I'm interested in. I just really appreciate being able to engage with people that are interested in it. And that book again is Ivan T. Sanderson's Invisible Resonance.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Well, again, thank you for what you do, and keep doing it, man. And I'll be following along. We'll be following along. So, thank you, man.
All right, man. Good to see you, Vinny, and you as well, Chad. Sorry, I saw Vinny pop up here in the end.
Shout out to Vinny too. He's one of the great. Everyone go follow Disclosure Team if you haven't yet. So, but all right, Dan.
All right, man. Take care.
Yeah, have a good night. Bye.
You too. Bye.